We've just received new information on the deaths of Oscar-winning actor Gene Hackman and his wife. This comes from a search warrant ABC News has obtained from Santa Fe County Sheriff's detectives. The couple was found yesterday inside their home in New Mexico.
Beneath the grand home of Hollywood star Gene Hackman, investigators found a shocking secret no one expected.
This morning, just released body camera and surveillance video from the death investigation of Gene Hackman and his wife Betsy, giving fresh insight into their final days. Deputies going room to room after being called to clear their Santa Fe home in February.
Hidden under his huge New Mexico mansion was a strange tunnel leading into darkness, unknown to anyone. Inside, old objects, odd items, and mysterious symbols suggested long-hidden secrets. What was this underground passage for? And why had it stayed secret for so many years? As officials explore further, more questions arise. Was it a private escape, a secret storage, or something much worse? Join us in this video as we reveal the details. The alleged secret tunnel beneath Gene Hackman's mansion. The property owned by the late actor Gene Hackman was not an ordinary home. People who later reviewed the land and its layout described it as something much closer to a fortified compound than a peaceful private residence. The estate covered about 23 acres of land and was carefully placed in a quiet, wooded area outside Santa Fe. From the outside alone, it was clear that privacy and protection were major priorities. Tall stone walls surrounded large portions of the property, some rising as high as 12 feet. Heavy steel gates controlled the only clear entrance, making it difficult for anyone to enter without permission. Security systems were installed throughout the grounds. Motion sensors monitored movement from hundreds of feet away, while thermal cameras tracked activity both day and night. According to security professionals who later reviewed these systems, the setup went far beyond what is normally seen in celebrity homes. Some described it as similar to security systems used at government or military locations. This level of defense raised early questions about why such extreme measures were considered necessary. Contractors who worked on the estate added to the mystery. Several reported being asked to build sections of the home using unusually thick concrete walls, some measuring up to 18 inches. This type of construction is more commonly used in bunkers or secure facilities designed to withstand explosions or extreme force. When workers questioned the purpose of this work, they were reportedly told it was for storage. However, many felt the explanation did not match the effort and materials required. All contractors and staff were required to sign strict non-disclosure agreements. These agreements prevented them from speaking publicly about their work or what they saw on the property for decades. Some of these agreements only expired years later, adding to the sense that secrecy was a long-term goal rather than a temporary precaution. Following Gene Hackman's death, investigators conducting a search of the estate reportedly discovered something unexpected. Hidden behind carefully designed panels in the private library was the entrance to a narrow tunnel. The opening was so well concealed that it would not have been found without close inspection. Once uncovered, investigators followed stone steps that spiraled downward into darkness. The tunnel extended more than 300 feet below the surface. It was narrow, steep, and cold, with damp air rising from below. Parts of the tunnel appeared extremely old, possibly dating back many decades or even a century. At the same time, other sections showed signs of modern reinforcement, suggesting that someone had taken steps to preserve and strengthen it over time. This mix of old and new construction made it difficult to determine exactly when the tunnel was first built or who originally created it. At the bottom of the tunnel, investigators reportedly entered a large underground chamber. The room was wide and open, with arched ceilings and stone walls that reflected older architectural styles. Some historians noted that the design resembled structures built in the late 1800s, particularly those connected to mining operations in the region. This supported records suggesting the land had been used for mining long before Hackman owned it. Inside the chamber, wooden crates were stacked along the walls. A total of 47 crates were reportedly documented. Many had decayed over time, with broken wood and faded markings. Their condition suggested they had been stored there for many years without disturbance. When investigators examined the contents, they found items that raised immediate concern and confusion. Among the materials was a leather-bound ledger dated 1947. The writing inside was entirely in German and included names, dates, and financial figures. There were also old photographs, yellowed with age, showing people in uniforms that did not clearly match any known military organization. Some images appeared to show meetings in dark rooms, while others showed unfamiliar locations. In several photographs, faces or names had been deliberately scratched out, as if someone wanted to erase identities completely. These findings alone were enough to shift the focus of the investigation. However, they were only part of what made the underground chamber so troubling. The walls themselves appeared to tell another story, one that investigators were not prepared to fully explain. If the tunnel and the artifacts already raised so many questions, what happens when investigators look closer at the walls themselves and come face to face with a sealed iron door that was never meant to be opened? Let's find out. Symbols, the sealed door, and the questions that remain. As investigators continued documenting the underground chamber, they noticed that the stone walls were covered in carved symbols. There were hundreds of these markings spread across the surface of the chamber. According to forensic specialists, the symbols did not match any known language, alphabet, or writing system. This immediately ruled out simple explanations such as graffiti or personal notes left by a previous owner. Some of the symbols looked similar to ancient alchemical signs once used in medieval Europe. Others appeared more technical, resembling blueprints or diagrams for machines. A few matched the general shape of astronomical charts, but the star patterns did not align with any known date or configuration recorded in modern astronomy. This made it difficult to place the symbols within any recognized historical or scientific framework. Experts offered several theories. One possibility was that the symbols were created by someone with an interest in the occult or secret knowledge. Another theory suggested the markings were part of a coded system designed to be understood only by someone with specific knowledge or a key. There were also more extreme ideas proposed by outside researchers who believed the symbols could represent information meant to stay hidden, passed down through generations. The most disturbing discovery, however, was still waiting at the far end of the chamber. Behind stacks of decaying crates, investigators reportedly found a massive iron door. The door stood about 8 feet tall and was several inches thick. Its surface was heavily rusted, suggesting it had not been touched in decades. Unlike most doors, it had no visible handle. Instead, it featured a heavy locking mechanism that appeared designed to keep whatever lay beyond it permanently sealed. Authorities have refused to comment on what, if anything, exists behind the door. There has been no public confirmation that it was ever opened. This silence has only added to speculation. Some believe the door leads to another chamber, possibly larger and even more secure. Others suggest it connects to a wider underground network, possibly linked to Cold War-era structures or forgotten military installations. Investigators also raised concerns about what they observed inside the main house. Furniture appeared to have been moved recently, leaving impressions in carpets and scuff marks on floors. Documents in Hackman's study looked as though they had been searched through and rearranged. These signs of activity did not match expectations based on the reported health and mobility of the couple. These details raised questions about whether someone else had been inside the house during the weeks leading up to the discovery of the bodies. Some theories suggest an outside party may have been searching for something specific. Others believe Hackman himself may have been organizing or hiding items in his final days. The timing of the deaths has also remained a major point of concern. Betsy Arakawa reportedly died weeks before Gene Hackman, yet her body was not discovered until much later. Hackman himself died sometime after, alone in the home. This gap in time has led to ongoing debate about what may have happened during those weeks. Did Hackman spend time in the underground chamber? Did he uncover something that caused fear or stress? Or was the tunnel used by someone else entirely? Despite these unanswered questions, officials have continued to state that the deaths were due to natural causes. At the same time, forensic teams are said to be analyzing the materials recovered from the underground chamber. The lack of clear answers has allowed speculation to grow, fueled by the unusual nature of the discoveries and the silence surrounding them. What remains certain is that the estate held more than anyone expected. Beneath the quiet home and its heavy security lay a hidden structure filled with unanswered questions. Until officials choose to speak openly, the tunnel, the symbols, and the sealed door will continue to raise doubts and theories, leaving the full truth buried deep beneath the ground. If what lay beneath the estate raised disturbing questions, what do the voices from outside the walls reveal about the long trail of secrecy, strange visitors, and people who seem to disappear without a trace? Stay tuned for more. Whispers from the outside, neighbors, vanishing workers, and a cold trail. Investigators examining the events surrounding the estate began to notice that some of the most unsettling details did not come from underground discoveries, but from the people who lived and worked nearby. Long before the deaths drew national attention, neighbors had quietly sensed that something about the property felt different. While the estate was known to be private and heavily guarded, locals reported patterns of behavior that stood out even by those standards. Several neighbors recalled seeing unfamiliar visitors arriving at the property late at night. These visits were often brief and irregular. Vehicles would enter through the reinforced gates, remain inside for a short time, and then leave without any clear explanation. The visitors were rarely seen during daylight hours, and their faces were never clearly visible. According to nearby residents, these visits did not follow any predictable schedule and continued over many years. While some initially assumed the activity was related to business or personal guests, the frequency and secrecy caused growing unease. In addition to these visits, neighbors described hearing strange mechanical sounds coming from beneath the ground. These noises were not constant, but occurred at odd hours, often late at night or early in the morning. Some compared the sounds to heavy machinery operating underground, while others described low rumbling vibrations that could be felt through the soil. The noises were unusual enough that a few residents discussed them among themselves, though no one ever reported them formally. Over time, the sounds became part of the local folklore surrounding the estate. Equally troubling were the stories connected to people who once worked on or around the property. Investigators attempting to trace former staff members, contractors, and laborers encountered repeated dead ends. Some individuals who had reportedly worked on construction projects decades earlier could not be located through public records. Others appeared to have left no clear employment history after their time at the estate. Phone numbers no longer worked. Addresses led nowhere. And in some cases, names failed to appear in any searchable databases. This pattern raised concerns because it was not limited to one or two individuals. Multiple workers from different periods seem to have vanished from traceable public life. While it is possible that some changed careers, moved abroad, or chose private lives, the sheer number of untraceable individuals connected to a single property stood out to investigators. The lack of documentation made it impossible to confirm their current status or even verify basic details about their lives after leaving the estate. Former neighbors also recalled that some workers left suddenly, without explanation. They remembered seeing staff members present for months or years, only to disappear without farewell or replacement. In a few cases, neighbors remembered asking about familiar workers and being told they had moved on without any further details. Over time, these quiet departures added to the sense that the estate operated under rules very different from those of ordinary households. Investigators noted that this atmosphere of secrecy was reinforced by strict confidentiality agreements. Workers and staff were reportedly required to sign legal documents, preventing them from speaking about their work for long periods of time. While non-disclosure agreements are not unusual for wealthy property owners, the length and severity described by some sources were considered extreme. These agreements may explain why some individuals were reluctant to come forward, even years later. Despite these troubling patterns, no direct evidence has been presented to confirm wrongdoing connected to the missing workers or strange activity. Authorities have emphasized that speculation alone is not proof. However, the inability to locate multiple individuals tied to the property has complicated efforts to fully reconstruct its history. Without first-hand accounts, investigators are left relying on fragments of information and second-hand reports. At the same time, official findings regarding the deaths themselves remained unchanged. Medical examiners concluded that Gene Hackman died from hypertensive and atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease, with Alzheimer's disease listed as a significant contributing factor. Investigators also confirmed that no major gas leaks or carbon monoxide exposure were detected inside the home. These conclusions supported the official position that the deaths were due to natural causes. Even so, the contrast between these medical findings and the surrounding circumstances has kept questions alive. Neighbors' accounts of unexplained visitors, underground noises, and disappearing workers paint a picture that does not easily align with an ordinary private residence. While none of these details alone prove criminal activity, together they suggest a long history of secrecy that has yet to be fully explained. As the investigation continues, authorities have remained cautious in their statements. They have not confirmed any link between the reported disappearances, the strange activity observed by neighbors, and the deaths at the estate. Until more information becomes available, these accounts remain unresolved pieces of a larger puzzle, leaving many to wonder how much of the estate's true history may never be fully uncovered. What exactly did authorities find when they finally entered the secluded Santa Fe estate? And how had years of isolation and secrecy shaped the final days of Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa? Let's learn more. Discovery of Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa. On the morning of February 26, 2025, law enforcement officers arrived at the Santa Fe, New Mexico, home of legendary actor Gene Hackman and his wife Betsy Arakawa. The first alert came from a handyman who had worked for the couple for years and had recently visited the estate. Upon arrival, the officers learned that both Hackman and his wife were deceased. Also present at the property were their 3 dogs. One dog had died inside a locked cage, likely from starvation and dehydration, while the other 2 were barely surviving, scavenging for scraps of food. The initial inspection revealed a home in shocking disrepair. The once luxurious $4 million estate, known for its serene desert setting and privacy, had become cluttered and unkempt. Officers documented piles of clothing, scattered boxes, unopened groceries, prescription bottles, and bedding covering the floors. Some rooms appeared largely untouched for months, while others showed signs of neglect and disorder. Body cam footage released by the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office captured officers carefully stepping around dog bedding, books, trash, and debris throughout the house. The sanitary conditions of the property were alarming. In one bathroom, uncleaned feces and urine had been left in the toilet for days. A bedroom contained a blood-stained pillow, while other areas of the home were scattered with half-eaten food, dog bedding, and expired groceries left to rot. The exterior of the estate also presented problems. Animal control specialists noted that parts of the compound had become a breeding ground for rodents. Dead rodents and nests were found in outbuildings. Officials clarified that the main home was not fully overrun by pests, but the conditions highlighted a serious risk to the couple's health. Betsy Arakawa, aged 64, had become ill first. Her death was attributed to hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, HPS, a rare but deadly disease carried by rodents. Laboratory tests confirmed the presence of the virus. Prior to her passing, Arakawa had contacted her doctor regarding her husband's health, noting that Hackman had felt unwell. She had also searched online for oxygen canisters, likely suspecting a simple respiratory illness. These actions suggest she tried to manage the situation quietly before the illness became fatal. Gene Hackman, aged 95, suffered from advanced Alzheimer's disease. This condition likely left him unaware of his wife's death. Observations from authorities suggest Hackman may have continued his daily routine, eating meals, sitting near her, or moving about the house without realizing the severity of the situation. Hackman later died of hypertensive and atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease, with Alzheimer's disease listed as a significant contributing factor. A full autopsy and post-mortem CT scan revealed no evidence of trauma, internal or external, and no other major natural disease. Testing for common viruses such as COVID-19 and influenza, as well as carbon monoxide, was negative. Investigators estimated that the couple had been deceased for approximately 9 days before they were discovered. Hackman's disorientation due to Alzheimer's likely compounded the effects of isolation and contributed to the tragic timeline. The scene inside the home painted a stark picture of two elderly individuals living in near total seclusion, without outside help or oversight. Their isolation, combined with illness and neglect, directly contributed to the circumstances leading to their deaths. Family members, including Hackman's daughters Elizabeth and Leslie, provided important context. They confirmed that Hackman and Arakawa were intensely private and had refused to allow anyone into their home, including cleaning staff. The daughters had not seen the couple in over a year and a half, highlighting the degree of isolation in which they had lived. This extended separation from the outside world delayed discovery of the deaths and contributed to the deteriorating condition of the estate. The public's reaction to the discovery was one of shock and sorrow. Fans and the media struggled to reconcile Hackman's commanding public persona with the frail and isolated man found in the home. The contrast was stark. A once vibrant actor, known for his strength and control on screen, reduced in private life to vulnerability, confusion, and solitude. In conclusion, the deaths of Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa illustrate the risks associated with prolonged isolation, illness, and advanced age. The conditions of the estate, the timeline of illness and death, and the medical findings all point to natural causes. Yet the story remains tragic, emphasizing the consequences of seclusion, even for individuals of wealth and influence. With the tragic deaths of Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa uncovered and the shocking state of their home revealed, what do the conditions of the estate and the public's reaction tell us about their final years and the legacy they left behind? Let's delve deeper. Estate conditions, public reaction, and legacy. The Santa Fe estate of Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa reflected years of isolation and neglect by the time authorities arrived. The home, previously a luxurious and carefully maintained property, had become cluttered and unsanitary. Officers noted expired food, scattered personal items, dog bedding, and general disorder throughout the house. Rooms that had once been pristine were filled with trash and debris, illustrating the deterioration of daily life under prolonged seclusion. Authorities carefully collected personal belongings, prescription medications, and documents. All items were documented and bagged for further investigation. Despite the messy conditions, officials confirmed that the deaths were consistent with natural causes. Betsy's death was due to hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, contracted from rodent droppings, while Hackman's death resulted from cardiovascular disease with Alzheimer's as a contributing factor. The property's conditions, while disturbing, did not suggest foul play. Testing confirmed the absence of harmful substances such as carbon monoxide, and no signs of trauma were found during autopsies. Family members offered insight into the couple's behavior and lifestyle. Hackman and Arakawa had chosen to live in seclusion, avoiding contact with the outside world. They had refused assistance from cleaning staff or others, contributing to the unsafe and unsanitary conditions that ultimately affected their health. The family had not visited or communicated regularly with the couple for more than 18 months prior to the discovery of their deaths. This extreme privacy, while reflecting the couple's personal wishes, prevented timely intervention during illness. The public reaction was a mixture of grief and disbelief. Fans and media outlets struggled to reconcile Hackman's screen image, a man known for his discipline, strength, and authority, with the reality of his final days. The estate, once a reflection of order and wealth, had become a symbol of vulnerability, illness, and isolation. Photographs released by authorities showed cluttered rooms, expired groceries, and other signs of long-term neglect, revealing the contrast between Hackman's public image and private circumstances. Hackman and Arakawa were buried in Santa Fe on April 15, 2025. The funeral was private and attended only by Hackman's 3 children, Christopher, Leslie, and Elizabeth. Following their deaths, the estate became a topic of legal and financial discussion. Reports indicated that Hackman's will had not been updated since 2005, raising questions regarding the inheritance of his estimated $80 million fortune. Legal representatives and family members faced the challenge of interpreting a will that no longer reflected current intentions. The deaths of Hackman and Arakawa highlight the dangers of prolonged isolation, particularly for elderly individuals with existing health conditions. While their privacy and desire to remain removed from public life were respected, this choice had unintended consequences, ultimately contributing to their deaths. Medical examinations confirmed natural causes, but the conditions inside the home illustrate the risks associated with extreme seclusion. In reflection, the story of Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa serves as a cautionary tale. The actor, once a commanding figure in Hollywood, spent his final years in solitude, removed from the support systems that might have prevented such a tragic outcome. Their deaths reveal the vulnerability of individuals who choose privacy over contact with the outside world. Beyond the personal tragedy, the estate and its condition illustrate how even wealth and prominence cannot protect against the natural consequences of isolation and illness. This case also demonstrates the importance of family and community oversight for elderly individuals living alone or in seclusion. While Hackman's life was marked by independence and privacy, it ultimately lacked the necessary support to maintain safety and health in advanced age. Investigators and authorities confirmed the facts of the case, but the human story behind it remains one of loneliness, neglect, and quiet tragedy, reminding the public that even those who appear strong and in control can be vulnerable in private life. While the shocking circumstances surrounding Gene Hackman's death raised questions of mystery and danger, one cannot forget the life that led him here. What experiences, choices, and talents shaped the man behind the legend? Let's take a closer look. The life, career, and legacy of Gene Hackman. Gene Hackman, born in 1930 in San Bernardino County, California, was one of the most respected and versatile actors in Hollywood. He started his career on stage at the Pasadena Playhouse in California during the 1950s. At first, he played small roles in plays, but he worked hard and learned his craft. From the stage, he moved to television and then into movies. Over time, he built a reputation as a skilled actor who could play many different kinds of characters. Hackman became widely known after his performance in the 1967 film Bonnie and Clyde. This role earned him his first nomination for an Academy Award. Throughout his career, Hackman was nominated for 5 Academy Awards. He won 2 of them. In 1972, he won the Oscar for Best Actor for his role in The French Connection. Later, in 1992, he won Best Supporting Actor for his role in Unforgiven. Hackman was known for taking on a wide variety of characters. He played the villain Lex Luthor in the Superman film series, a basketball coach in Hoosiers, Presidents, Military Leaders, and a submarine captain in Crimson Tide. He also had a talent for comedy, as seen in The Birdcage and The Royal Tenenbaums. Hackman retired from acting in 2004. By that time, he had acted in 79 movies over 5 decades. His long career showed both his skill and his dedication. Hackman also had interests outside of acting. He enjoyed writing and published several novels. Some of these books were inspired by his hobbies, like diving and car racing. Hackman raced cars in events at Long Beach and Daytona, showing his love for speed and adventure. He was also an avid diver, which influenced his first novel. Hackman's personal life was marked by both challenges and achievements. During the Great Depression, his father left the family when Hackman was just 13. Despite this difficult start, he showed determination. At only 16 years old, he lied about his age to join the Marines. After he was discharged, he used the GI Bill to study journalism and television production. Hackman married twice and had 3 children. His personal experiences, including his early struggles and military service, shaped him and often influenced the characters he portrayed on screen. Throughout his career, Hackman was highly respected by his peers. Many admired his dedication and the authenticity he brought to every role. Clint Eastwood commented that Hackman never gave a false note, no matter how small the role or how large the film. The New York Times called him Hollywood's consummate everyman, a description that reflected his ability to convincingly play ordinary people, heroes, villains, and complex characters alike. Hackman's work appealed to many generations of viewers. People discovered his films at different times and continued to appreciate them long after their release. For example, younger audiences watching The Replacements or older films like Hoosiers could still see his talent shine through. Fans often remember key moments from his career, such as Lex Luthor removing his wig in Superman, which brought the comic book character to life, or his small cameo in Young Frankenstein, where he played a blind man with a bushy beard. Even in brief appearances, Hackman was able to leave a lasting impression because of his skill and attention to detail. In addition to his acting, Hackman had other talents and interests. He was known to take on roles that were challenging or complex, often choosing characters with difficult or conflicted personalities. He enjoyed pushing himself and exploring new types of characters. Hackman also found ways to express himself outside of acting. Writing novels gave him another form of creative expression, while racing cars and diving allowed him to pursue adventure in real life. In summary, Gene Hackman had a long, successful, and varied career in film, television, and theater. He won awards for both leading and supporting roles and played a wide range of characters. His dedication, versatility, and authenticity earned him respect from his peers, critics, and audiences alike. Beyond acting, he explored writing, racing, and diving, showing a passion for life and creativity. Hackman's work continues to influence actors and filmmakers, and his films remain an important part of Hollywood history. Even after retirement, his legacy as a talented, reliable, and versatile actor remains firmly established. What do you think about the legacy of Gene Hackman? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. Thank you for joining us as we explored the incredible life, legendary career, and lasting legacy of Gene Hackman. If this deep dive gave you a new appreciation for the man behind the screen, don't forget to like and subscribe. Click the next video on your screen to uncover more stories. See you there.